Hello and welcome to the semi-finals of Grand Prix Prague. The format is Legacy and there are just 4 players remaining in this battle to see who's going to become the champion here in the format that allows almost every card in the entirety of Magic. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined by Matej Big Z Zadelkai, and we're going to get a chance to see Nicolas Tholance on the left of our screen. He's on Miracles against the man Insane Hayne, who has won a Pro Tour with Miracles, albeit in an entirely different format. Playing Grixis Delver, a list that has Disruption, it's got Aggression, and potentially it might have quite a good matchup here against the control deck on the other side of the table.
Yeah, we'll see about that. It's a little funny that you say Grixis Delver and he starts off with a Tropical Island, which is green, but we know it's only in the deck for the Deathrite Shaman green activation, and it's a blue land that you can still put to good use with your Dazes and cast your blue spells off.
Yeah, I think that he has maybe one copy of Abrupt Decay in his sideboard that he's able to flash back as sorry, one copy of
Ancient Grudge.
Ancient Grudge in his sideboard he's able to flash back. But yeah, at this point, Nicolas Tholance is not going to be fooled by that Tropical Island. He knows what's going on. Sees a Misty Rainforest. Misty Rainforest able to fetch basically every land in Alex Hayne's deck. He's going to be fixing his mana good and proper here.
Yeah, and I wonder if he has a Delver follow-up here, just something to put on the early pressure. Maybe a Deathrite Shaman as well. Both would be quite fine. Or he could even go for a blind Cabal Therapy, which, because he knows the archetype he's playing against, it's not really blind.
A few options there. I can see that there is another Brainstorm in Alex Hayne's hand. I'm guessing that he's going to wait a little bit on that one. Timing of Brainstorm's one of the skills that's kind of important in Legacy all over the place, and we do see that Deathrite Shaman, you called it there, Matej. That's going to come down. It's potentially going to offer additional mana from the by removing that land in Alex Hayne's graveyard. It can also potentially deal damage to Nicolas Tholance without having to get stuck into the red zone.
Yeah, it's a pretty good early play, but I'm pretty sure Alex would have been much happier playing like Delver of Secrets, especially with that Brainstorm in his hand, which would assure a flipping of Delver's Secrets. So,
well, it's the classic 2 islands go. It's entirely possible he is actually holding a counterspell. There are 3 copies of counterspell in Nicolas Tholance's deck, and it looks like he's got at least a Force of Will in hand, so he can pick his spots as to what he wants to resolve on the other side of the table. Ponder looks like it's going to be okay. Alex Hayne sees a Lightning Bolt along with at least 1 blue card drawing spell there. He's just going to figure out if he wants any of those, and if he does want those, what order he wants them in.
Yeah, this is a pretty good spot to try to resolve a good spell here. He has Daze. The top of the library was wasn't actually that good. I think it was Land, Brainstorm, and Lightning Bolt, so he'd rather shuffle away here rather sooner than later. But since he has the Daze and Deathrite Shaman, he has the mana advantage, so this is a prime spot to play a Young Pyromancer, or maybe he could. I don't think he can cast the Gurmag Angler unless he has something like Gitaxian Probe still in his hand, so we'll see what he comes up with here.
Interestingly, between Delve and Deathrite Shaman, it really wouldn't matter too much to use the Deathrite Shaman for mana, because either way round, that card in the graveyard is going to help cast Gurmag Angler.
Only 4 cards so far. So there's the Delver. And still has mana up for potential Brainstorm, Ponders. There's the counterspell. I think he's going to Daze that. Yep, so counter target spell unless it's control plays 1, but the alternative mana cost of returning an island is fairly sweet. I remember it from the good old times in Standard as well.
Oh yeah, catching someone with a Daze always feels good, or indeed catching with a Force Spike, kind of the counter spell that's styled off. It's one of those cards that's very, very powerful in the early game, loses a bit of potential in the late game, and in some respects that means that you can afford to be more aggressive with it, because you know that it's only going to get worse as more lands come into play. Yeah,
I've actually found a correlation. The people that have started around the time that Daze was standard legal have a much bigger affinity for all these sorts of effects, like your Force Spikes, your Force Voids, or all the effects that maybe have your opponent do something and you get to do some other effect. Maybe something like a Rune Boggle, you know?
Well, it's all basics here for Nicolas Tholance, playing a Plains on his 3rd turn. That means that he's not going to have any more counter magic up anytime soon. And here we have Alex Hayne just sort of figuring out what he wants to do the turn. Just to let you know, after game 1 here, we will be moving across to get a little bit of Tagores versus Enevoldson. I know that people like to see the explosiveness of Storm. People like to see how Death and Taxes might be able to deal with it. I certainly am going to be intrigued to see how that one goes. Don't worry, folks. We will get a chance to see some of that match also after game 1 of this one.
Yeah, this game is a lot of pondering in the card sense and the reality. Just so many ponders being played on both sides of the board.
Aptly named. And I think that R&D do a pretty good, or maybe the creative team do a pretty good job of taking their generic blue spells and giving them appropriate monikers, if you will.
Yeah, there was a whiff on the Delver's Secrets flip, and also Alex actually has a Wasteland, but also no red mana. I think he has Lightning Bolt in his hand too, so his mana development is not that great. Even though Deathratch Shaman obviously can give him any mana of any color if he so desires. As I mentioned, more pondering as the 5th one on this of this match, and it's only turn 4.
And this is at least the 2nd shuffle we've seen off a Ponder thus far. In some respects, I always feel like Ponders, I'm most happy with Ponder when it makes me shuffle, because that means that I've managed to escape a really bad draw. So, in terms of what Tholance is looking to put together here, in the early game, I guess that he's just looking to build his mana up, make sure that he's not too low on life, because his is the deck that's going to be able to utilize lots of lands more efficiently.
Yeah. He also drew yet another Ponder, but mostly what he's looking for here was the Swords to Plowshares, just to get rid of some of the pressure on the board. But I think he would have really liked to see a Sensei's Divining Top, just to be able to craft his draws a little better than he has so far. Especially now that Alex Hayne is going to start taking initiative of this game. He has the Flip Delver, which is a 3/2. Nicolas has Brainstorms and Force of Wills in hands, but no answer to the Delver just yet, unless it's one of the cards. He said no. He has 2 Brainstorms, Ponder, and Force of Will. That's what reassure Alex a little, but that can all change very quickly with just 1 Brainstorm and a fetch land.
Yeah, I mean, what you see there is a hand with potential. It's the Force of Will, in principle, can deal with any massive threats, though at the moment I would imagine Alex is going to be happy to sit back on the one he's got. But the Brainstorms mean that anything could be coming.
Yep. And also, Alex also has the Gurmag Angler, has a Force of Will to back it up, so he might actually try to force it here. But on the other hand, he has to be careful about Nicolas drawing himself into a Terminus.
So a Cabal Therapy prompts a Brainstorm, and this is one of the elements of Brainstorm that we don't see quite so much these days, but it used to be a big feature, which is using Brainstorm to hide cards from discard.
Yep.
So in principle, at the point that Alex Hayne cast this Cabal Therapy, he had perfect information to work with. He would be able to name whatever he fancied and get rid of it. Now there's a bit of a mind game going on, because Nicolas Tholance can take 2 of the cards in his hand, having drawn 3, and put them back on top of his deck. And Alex Hayne needs to play the guessing game of figuring out, having happened, what are the best hits that he can get with his Cabal Therapy.
Yeah, but this is also part of those mind games, you know. It's like, I'm going to hide something good, but then you're going to say something weaker maybe with the Cabal Therapy or not. You know, it's small mind games. And I quite like the fact that, as we adjust the camera a little there, that he drew the Terminus that I mentioned. So after the resolving this Cabal Therapy, this is actually really a really cool way to play it. So Alexander names the Force of Will, which I assume would happen. But now that he has a Terminus in hand and a Brainstorm on top, you know, it's a little tricky, because Alex didn't see the Terminus before, and he just assumed that having played Brainstorm Response, there's no more Brainstorms from Alex. But because there's a Terminus in hand and none on top, I think Alex can assume that the top card of Nicolas Tholance's library is a Brainstorm.
Well, we have had an update from one of the other games going on, the only other game going on. Thomas Enelson was able to pick up the first game, and we're holding that one. We will be able to catch game 2 of that one just as soon as it kicks off. We're going to jump across as soon as they finish sideboarding and shuffling. This one looks like it's, if you'll excuse the pun, a rather ponderous match.
Indeed, and it could actually happen. We would see a 6-pounder very soon here. But as expected, there's the brainstorm on top. I don't think Alex is surprised about this one. And I would strongly think about force of willing it, especially because he saw the terminus and he doesn't want Nicolas to put it on top of his library. And there you see it. Plays the force of will, exiling brainstorm, and Alex can really put on the beats here. Maybe play a Gurmag Angler as well, just to it doesn't really improve his clock by that much. So, but now that he has Daze, he doesn't have to worry about 6 mana terminus. So I think he's just going to play the Angler here.
Loads of cards in the graveyard, and there is a little bit to think about in terms of what you remove here. You know that you're the one that's playing Tarmogoyf, if you don't want to remove card types if you could help it. As things stand, though, what he's got on the board now is a virtual... Well, he's threatening a 2-turn clock unless that fetch line gets cracked.
Yes.
And the Ponder sees a Sensei's Divining Top and the Counterbalance, both of those too little too late here. Terminus is in hand. Nicolas Tholance, I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this one. A shuffle might get him somewhere.
Yeah, I think now from the Ponder, he's going to keep the Sensei's Divining Top. He'll then use his fetch line to shuffle away the cards that he saw on top, because it doesn't really need the fetch line or the counterbalance. And he's going to try to find the terminus and hopefully for him play it during Alexander Hayne's turn.
So he's setting himself up for a blind top flip in order to stay alive here.
Not a blind one. He can still look at the 3 cards and set Terminus up on top and then swap it with the Sensei's Divining Top in Alexander Hayne's turn.
Okay, so he's got 3 cards to see in order to find exactly Terminus.
Yes.
Though I suppose if he saw a Swords to Plowshares, he would stay
too.
alive for another turn, maybe 2.
Exactly. So he still has cards to dig for, but he's not in great shape. Even though Alex Hayne is actually low on cards himself, I think only owns two of his own. So let's see if there's a Terminus there. Is a Jace and a land?
It looks like Nicolas Tholance may be out of time there. We're going to jump across to our other match because we have got Death and Taxes versus Storm. Yeah. Game 2, somehow or other, we had a Game 1 win from Thomas Nevelson with his Death and Taxes list. He does have more answers to the aggressive Storm plan of Rodrigo Tagores in the second game, and he's just checking out his opening hand, trying to make sure that it's going to be able to compete with what could be an explosive start.
Yeah, what I assume what happened in Game 1 was that there was not a Phyrexian Invoker, but a Thalia played very early, because that's Thomas's best chance to actually win. And I did see him play turn 1 Aether Vial just when we were starting Game 2 of the other match, so probably involved a very early start, especially backed up by a Thalia, because his main deck is not very well tuned against the Storm deck from Rodrigo Tagores.
Well, Thomas Nevelson has a bit of a history with incredible games in top 8s of Grand Prix when it comes to Death and Taxes. I believe that he had one of the most exciting matches on camera that I've ever seen, which was when he was in the top 8 of the last GP that he won with Death and Taxes, where he was able to defeat a show and tell player who got Emrakul into play, attacked with Emrakul thanks to sneak attack, and then somehow or other didn't end up getting to get the last points of damage in.
Yeah, that was an amazing match. I actually had the pleasure of casting it live, and it was just amazing to see. I actually saw Lucas Blohan do that yesterday, where his opponent hit him with an Emrakul over his head, but he did have 7 permanents, and that Emrakul only came in from a sneak attack. So that means that he took 15, went down to 3, but his own last permanent was a Tarmogoyf, which was able to swing the match in his favor, even though he had no other permanents. So I think it's more like I think it feels like a christening in Magic Land. When you survive an Emrakul attack and win the game, that's
achievement unlocked.
Yeah, pretty much, especially for Legacy.
So Thomas Nevelson resolving his mulligan, and just to be clear there, it did end up the way that we anticipated. There weren't any cards that were able to save Nicolas Tholance on the top of his deck. Alexander Hayne did get that first game against the Miracles deck of Nicolas Tholance, and it looks like Thomas Nevelson, he's doing his scry here on his hand for Game 2. That's going to the bottom, but at least he is keeping, and a Gitaxian Probe means we get to see exactly what he's keeping. Thalia and a Relic of Progenitus. and another Thalia, a Mishra's Factory, plus the Plains, and Brimaz there. Brimaz probably the weak link in that change, but 2 copies of Thalia as a fantastic start, and it really does put a clock on Tagores in terms of what he's going to be able to get going.
Yeah, what Thomas has to hope for here, though, that there's no Cabal therapy from Rodrigo. If Rodrigo has a Cabal therapy here, taking both Thalias is a huge problem for him. Okay, he's going off in turn 1?
Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamond. We're going to cast an Ad Nauseam. In response to the Ad Nauseam, we're going to sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond. Let's just keep our storm count and our mana count set. We have 6 spells played so far, and let's see, we would have 3, 4, 5. We have 3 mana floating. We don't know what color that mana is.
He's just revealing all the cheap cards so far. A couple of 2s there. There's a Rain of Filth. There's an Infernal Tutor, and it looks like this might be enough with the mana in the pool, but he's just going off on turn 1, by the way.
Yeah, this is 11 damage he's dealing to himself so far, so he's able to go a little bit deeper. Finding a Lotus Petal, very important, and a Dark Ritual.
Yeah, this should be enough now.
Yeah, he's got the Infernal Tutor to find Tendrils of Agony. He's got the Lion's Eye Diamond in order to help him get mana alongside a Lotus Petal and a Ritual.
Yep, he'll be able to Ritual himself. Yep, we're trying to get some help there.
So 5 black mana currently in pool.
Yep. I'm sure you're all enjoying yourselves in chat with that nice turn 1 kill. There's a Rain of Fill just to get an extra spell because it costs 1 black mana, but it says that you can sacrifice your swamps for 1 black, so it's just adding more spells to the storm count. It's going to Infernal Tutor there again, stacking the Lion's Eye Diamond on being on the stack, and there he goes for a lethal Tendrils of Agony before Thomas Enevoldsen could even play a land, and he did keep a decent enough hand. Yeah, he's just making sure. Yep, that's lethal. That's 20. GG's.
It turns out it's possible to win on turn 1 in Legacy. And Thomas Enevoldsen there just giving him the stare. I mean, that's not something that comes up too commonly, even with the Storm deck in Legacy.
On the other hand, when I talk to his friends about him, when he goes to these tournaments, actually, he manages these turn 1 kills quite often.
I mean, that comes with practice. There are certain operations. I mean, recognizing when to go for it and when not is a little tricky. That one was, I mean, it's what they call a deterministic almost. You knew that you were going to be able to cast Ad Nauseam on a lot of life. It was possible to whiff on at the point that the Ad Nauseam got cast. The thing that he needed to find there was additional mana producers and the Infernal Tutor to find his Tendrils of Agony. If he had just simply flipped Tendrils of Agony plus some of the other expensive cards in his deck, he may have reached a point where he couldn't go further with that Ad Nauseam. But I'm sure the chat loved catching that game.
Yeah, everyone was like, whoa, PogChamp, etc. But I liked how Rich was asked in the chat, like, do you want to see Miracles or Storm? Type Miracles for Miracles, Storm for Storm. The chat was just like, Storm, all the way through. I think it's also partly because they want to see Thomas Enevoldsen try to beat the evil turn 1 kill deck.
Well, this time round he gets to be on the play against it, and that's certainly not worth nothing when you don't get to play if you're on the draw. So looking at a new hand here, it's got a Wasteland. I'm not sure that I see... Is there 1 Plains in there? I think there might be.
These the thing is, it might not even matter, you know, if Thomas Mulligans are not here.
Yeah, I mean, if the hand is the same as last time, I don't think there's a card in Thomas Enevoldsen's deck that is able to do anything about it on that first turn. Hello and welcome back. Sorry about that, some Phyrexian gremlins in the works, but you have not missed anything. Thomas Enevoldsen taking his very first turn against Roberto Tagores' Storm deck. He got beaten out fairly quickly in Game 2, turn 1 win from Tagores. Turn 1 for him in this game, though, started off with Wasteland into Aether Vial. Here is Gitaxian Probes coming along, so this could be second verse, same as the first here from Roberto Tagores. It looks like a second copy of Gitaxian Probe. So Storm count currently 2. He's fetching a land.
No, I don't think he has it. I saw 2 Lotus Petals and an Infernal Tutor, which made me go, oh wow, but he also has a Cabal Therapy. So no turn 1 kill this time round. We might actually see an actual game of Magic.
I really hope so. So what's going away? Yeah, it's Thalia. That makes sense. Serra Avenger, a couple of copies of Mother of Runes and a Plains. That Aether Vial is going to be able to put a Mother of Runes into play. Wasteland getting rid of Underground Sea. So a couple of mums on turn 2.
Not the fastest clock on the earth, but if it's joined by the Sarah Avenger, it could actually be decent. Is Rodrigo going for it on turn 2? No, just a Ponder here.
He's going for something. He's going for a Ponder. Sees a Brainstorm alongside Infernal Tutor and one card that I didn't quite pick out there.
Yeah, he still has Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Land Infernal Tutor, and another Lotus Petal, so he can... I think he can go for something here. He's close to Threshold. That means that he can generate quite a lot of mana with that Cabal Ritual.
And potentially go for it the old-fashioned way with Infernal Tutor, empty his hand just by casting lots of spells. The choke point there normally ends up being lands in hand, but I don't think there's too many in this hand right now for Rodrigo Togores.
No, I think that what Rodrigo's problem is that it looks like any card of the top that he has, he might not be able to empty his hand for that Infernal Tutor. And probably he can't go for Ad Nauseam and Infernal Tutor on the same turn. I don't think he has that much mana, so he can probably set up for a good turn next turn. If that card on his left is the Misty Rainforest, which I think it is, he's making the math here.
Yeah, this is very much the kind of deck that warrants practice. We know that Rodrigo Togores has that practice under his belt already. Gets another copy of Infernal Tutor, and it may be that the first Infernal Tutor is getting another Dark Ritual.
Yeah, or another Cabal Ritual, which actually nets more mana. So I think Rodrigo might try to go for something here. Dark Ritual for 3 mana, Cabal Ritual takes him up to 6, Infernal Tutor for Cabal Ritual gets him to 4, down to 2, up to 7 mana, and then Infernal Tutor with an empty head and Ad Nauseam to go for to try to go for the kill here. But he's only on 14, so it's a little risky. But he could definitely try to go for an Ad Nauseam here, because I don't think he has enough spells for to go for the Tendrils of Agony kills just yet. And you can see he's just counting just to make sure. I didn't count the Lotus Pelt, so that's actually 1 extra mana, and I think he should go for it here.
Storm is currently 2 because he's used a Lotus Petal and that Ponder.
Yeah, remember we're only in turn 2 now, and he's going for it.
Storm count 3 and 3 black mana in pool. One of these dice, it will be fairly clear. Okay, so a black germ token I think that we're going to take to mean black mana here.
Yeah, so going to go for Lotus Petal here.
Storm count 4. Thank you for this, Rodrigo. It makes our life a lot easier, and I'm sure everyone at home feels kind of the same way.
4 black, so you're going to Infernal Tutor, reveal Cabal Ritual, go for another one.
Conveniently finds it on the bottom of his deck. That saves a little bit of time for us.
Yeah, so
though realistically, his deck might be saving us time just by winning very fast indeed.
2 mana left. He uses that to cast the Cabal Ritual, go up to 5. We'll cast another one to go up to 8. And then he'll play an Infernal Tutor. Goes down to 6. And now he'll be able to find a card. He doesn't have enough spells to cast the Lethal Tendrils of Agony just yet. So he just is going to go for... Oh, okay. He can go the old-fashioned way with one more Infernal Tutor. That's 9, and the Tendrils of Agony is going to be 10. So he doesn't even have to risk going for the Ad Nauseam kill. That was 10 spells there. Tendrils for 20. There's the handshake.
And we hear a little ripple of applause from the other side of the room. Thomas Levelson, understandably, looking a little bit saddened by that. I mean, he knew that there was the potential for that sort of thing to happen, but I don't know that every Storm player would have seen that set of lines to be able to get the kill on turn 2 there. He had a turn 1 and a turn 2, and we're already back in our other match. Alex Hayne against the Miracles deck. He briefly had Winter Orb in play, but Wear Tear has dealt with that one. The question is, will Nicolas Tholance's Miracles deck be able to deal with the threats already on board, those being Young Pyromancer and an Elemental brought by it?
Yeah, and Alex can just go aggressive. Look at that. He has Brainstorm to pick up some more cards. He even has a Lightning Bolt to put on even more pressure. And I assume he's going to wasteland the Tundra from Nicolas Tholance to restrict him further on mana. As you can see, Nicolas only has 2 Snapcaster Mages and a Predict. At least there's one positive thing about Storm doing well. It might lead to a faster tournament because Rodrigo Togores is not messing around. He did think for a while, but he certainly didn't slow roll the kill.
I mean, having a deck that can get that kill and being proficient in finding it on the first or second turn, pretty important if you assume that Miracles is a big part of the metagame, because once Miracles gets a counterbalance in play, it definitely becomes choppy seas for the Storm deck if it's looking to find a way of getting through there.
Alexander Hayne, I wasn't sure what he had in his hand, but he might actually be going for a Gurmag Angler here. He has 6 cards in his graveyard that he can exile to the Angler. He's trying to figure out how much he wants to improve his clock. He actually goes for the Delver. because he knows it's going to flip. So that means that it's going to be an actual 2-turn clock with the 7 power already on board, and doesn't need. He can save up the angler in case one of his creatures gets dealt with.
So a predict being cast here, and he's used his Sensei's Divining Top, so he knows what was going to be on top there, able to use it to draw a couple of cards and put the top that was on top in the bin, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and a good draw too. Finds a Flooded Strain. Yeah, he didn't forget to draw a card for his turn. We're going to play the Flooded Strain here, and drew also a Swords to Plowshares that he can use to kill the Young Pyromancer or the Delver.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, Ambush Viper mode may be activated on his Snapcaster Mage, jumping into play with Flash in order to block a Young Pyromancer. Lightning Bolt, though, could make that a little bit trickier. Gets revealed to the Delver of Secrets, now transformed into Insectile Aberration.
But I think this is going to prompt the Gurmag Angler from his hand. No matter which creature Nicolas Tholance is going to kill with that Swords to Plowshares. He also drops down to 13. Every point of life matters in these sorts of a race situation, and Alex is going to try to go for quite a defensive plan of just Snapcaster Mage, Sword of Plowshares on the following turn, and hope that it's going to stop the bleeding. So if he's going to kill the Young Pyromancer, I assume. Yeah, before the draw phase, yes. So Alexander Hayne still can't play Lightning Bolt to get an extra elemental token. But yeah, so now we're still in the upkeep, looks like. So now Alex thinking if he actually wants to keep that Lightning Bolt, he could shuffle it away with the Misty Rainforest. But I think he's just going to attack for 5 here, put Nicolas down to 8, and save up his Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, I mean, he's representing lethal with that Lightning Bolt on top of the creatures that he has. And if he does cast this Gurmag Angler here, it's a fine time to resolve one. It means that there's a lot of different threats that Nicolas Tholance needs to deal with here if he's just going to stay in this game.
He was going for the miracle there. You could see like he slowly, he put it on the side of the table, really hoping that he would hit a Terminus there. But he's still certainly not out of it. He has 2 alternatives, basically. He can go for Snapcaster Mage, flashing back the swords that he can use to kill off maybe the Insectile Aberration and chump block the Gurmag Angler. But
well, he's going to struggle to chump block because there is that Lightning Bolt in hand for Alex
exactly.
Hayne.
So yeah, so that's why this is probably not the best path. Even I think Alex could actually allow the chump block as well, because the Lightning Bolt would just threaten the life total so much. So, but he is overextended. And if there's a Terminus in the top 3 cards of Nicolas Tholance's deck, it could be a good night for all those creatures on the board.
Very powerful stuff here from Alexander Hayne, really putting the pressure on. And Snapcaster Mage coming in upkeep from Nicolas Tholance. Doesn't want to offer Alexander Hayne any more cards to potentially be able to get him past what's going on the other side of the table.
Yeah, it's a bad spot for Nicolas, because he knows about Lightning Bolt, so that makes it tough. He has to kill the Gurmag Anglers. Now he's going to take 4 damage from Delver, and at least 1 elemental getting through. So that means he's going to be in Lightning Bolt range pretty much. It won't be possible for him to sacrifice a fetch land here if he draws one, unless he gains some life back.
Or feels very confident in his ability to counter that Lightning Bolt. Yeah. There is a counter spell in his hand.
Yeah. He has another Snapcaster Mage into Swords to Plowshares there. Yeah. Gonna go for the Delver this time. Well, the Insectile Aberration. No days from Alexander Hayne.
I feel like we need to start referring to Snapcaster Mage as Mr. Plow. That's his name. That name again is Mr. Plow.
Yeah, I know that reference. Sick reference, bro.
So now Alexander Hayne knows to think about his attacks a little bit. I mean, I guess that he's always going to be able to trade with this token because there's the Lightning Bolt going on. Chooses to actually keep his creature in play, kills the Snapcaster Mage with Lightning Bolt, attacks Tholance down to 3 and passes things back.
Yeah, but nothing to deal with the 1/1 elemental just yet. Lots of card drawing, and it's about time that Nicolas Tholance gets to use the Sensei's Divining Top or the Brainstorm alternatively.
So dig, dig, dig with Brainstorm. Sees a Monastery Mentor.
Ooh,
that is a nice one.
Yeah, it's great. Especially if he has any way to protect it. And ideally, at this point doesn't matter if he's on 3 or on 2, so he could easily just fetch away something. He actually doesn't seem to like the Monastery Mentor. He looks like to have a different plan.
I mean, there's so many different things to be scared of at this point. He's in that position where fairly soon his decisions are going to be made very easy because there's only one decision that's going to be able to keep him alive. But for now, there's a tiny bit of wiggle room, and he's going to use that room where he can. Passes things back with counter mana up so that hopefully, at worst, all that's going to happen to him is he's going to take 1 damage from an elemental here.
Yeah, but he has no reason to panic just yet. Of course, like going from 3 to 2, it just means that you're going to be able to sack 1 fetch land less. But by playing this way, he can use the Sensei's Divining Top, still keep that counterspell up, and look at that. He found a basic land, Monastery Mentor, and there's also Swords to Plowshares that he could use. So he's just going to untap into land and... Nope, just Monastery Mentor?
Well, it's Monastery Mentor where now he's able to play a Brainstorm to make another Monk token. So this way round, he's got a little bit of extra flexibility compared to what he would have had last term if he just played the Monk on its own.
I didn't like this play. If I was in Nicolas' shoes, I would have probably drawn the Swords to Plowshares, killed that, keep up counterspell mana, and the following turn play my land, play Monastery Mentor, and keep counterspell up again. He's now risking to. Okay. I hope he didn't play 2 lands this turn.
I don't think that he did that because last turn he tapped his top. And
yeah, true.
This turn he's not been doing so much.
Yeah. So he's actually in a fine spot, and I'm sure he's a much better player than I am. So, Nicolas Tholance, what can he do here? He has the Swords to Plowshares, and he can finally get on the scoreboard. Okay. Okay, so he used it in his upkeep to draw an extra card. He's going to replay it again. So he's going for the Sensei's Divining Top shenanigans, trying to get as many monks as possible, to pump them up as well.
This is our count on prowess, I think, here.
Swords to Plowshares, kill your Deathrite Shaman. So prowess again, add another monk to the board.
Hayne's life total right now pretty gigantic, but it's always impressive to me how quickly Monastery Mentor can deal with a high life total.
And now he has 2 blockers for the elemental and counterspell mana up, and can still use the top. So the way he played is actually better than I would, and I'm not surprised. Miracles is a really hard deck to play.
Yeah, there's 2 extra monk tokens just lurking off the top of our screen there. I think that basically Tholance kind of keen to make sure that the ones that are summoning sick are good and far apart from the ones that aren't. I'm sure that once they untap, they'll get moved down a little bit so we can see the full extent of the impressiveness of Nicolas Tholance's board. There we go.
Yep, more of the same shenanigans with the Sensei's Divining Top, and it looks like Nicolas Tholance is nearing lethal here.
Yeah, because all of those monk tokens now 2/2s. The Monastery Mentor itself a 3/3.
Yeah, he can keep drawing. It basically is something like drawing an extra card, just because that's how he uses the Sensei's Divining Top. He's drawing card. Yeah, he's just using it to get the extra prowess triggers and the extra monks. But I know the chat keeps screaming he played 2 lands, but I'm not 100% about that. As Alex drops down to 11 from that attack, and I assume next turn is going to be lethal.
From Nicolas Tholance, another
putting two back in rather.
Yeah, he's going to be aggressive in this last one. I mean, this is the time where potentially for each of these players, they know that they may only have one more game of Magic left in them in this tournament. Whoever wins this one is going to be advancing to the final against Storm. So a very different matchup to what we've got going on here.
Oh, yeah.
And each of these players just making the spot adjustments they need, which may partly be predicated on the fact that now it's going to be Alexander Hayne who's on the play here. And his is the deck that can potentially sneak an early victory just by getting some threats on the board and protecting them.
Yeah, definitely. I think both players should give us a very interesting match in the finals. Both are Force of Will decks, and they both have some cards that can deal with storms, such as they both have Fluster Storms in their deck, and sometimes all these counter spells really help you put the game away. And of course, counterbalance top against a deck trying to use 0, 1, and 2 casting cost cards to their advantage is certainly not a bad way to set yourself up.
So Alexander Hayne, he did travel all the way across from Canada. He said that, you know what, the face-to-face games guys are going to be here. I've got a few friends that are going to be here. I'm going to be able to stay with a teammate in Prague. And I've never been to Prague before. You know what? Let's do it. Legacy's a format that Alexander Hayne very comfortable with. Last time he came across to Europe to play in a Legacy GP, he did make the top 8. He's done it again. And this time round, he may even make it to the finals. I believe it was the semi-finals that he exited last time. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not he can go at least one better here.
Yeah, he did lose to Jacob Wilson, his teammate, who was playing the exact same deck list as he was. But ultimately, Alex Haynes lost to Jacob, and then Jacob lost in the finals to Thomas Enevoldsen, who just got eliminated. Funnily enough, funny story about Alexander Hayne, who told me he played 3 Legacy events in Europe, and he top-8'd all 3. 2 of them being GPs, and one of them being a Bazaar of Moxen event that he came to play the week before that one of those GPs.
So one way or another, Alexander Hayne putting on a bit of a show when it comes to Legacy. Sometimes when we think about pro players, Legacy isn't kind of top of mind for them because there aren't as many opportunities to play Legacy and earn pro points. But quietly, Alexander Hayne does seem to have a bit of a flair for this format.
Oh, definitely. And he also mentioned that he felt that in Europe, when he's playing these aggressive Delver decks, that people don't respect them as much as they do in the US. Where he plays some Legacy events as well. So he certainly was happy to sleeve up such a version of his Grixis Delver deck, and said the metagame suited him pretty well.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point you make there, Matej. That we do see some regional differences when it comes to the sorts of decks that people choose. I know that in Japan there's a lot more players that are very keen on the sneak and show decks with Omniscience and so on. That was ultimately what Tomohiro Saito brought to this event.
Actually, he didn't. He played Eldrazi in this one. He changed it up. He wanted to play. He wanted to play the Omniscience, but he did play Eldrazi.
That's very interesting because I spoke to him on the Thursday, and he seemed dead set. He'd got a deck from one of the Legacy Masters over in Japan. It's interesting that he made that last-minute change there.
Yeah, I was surprised as well because it seemed like a deck he would be wanting to play. But yeah, let's get back to our semifinals here. And is that a turn 1 Delver? It is.
Both players keeping on 7, and there's a host of answers in hand for Nicolas Tholance here. He doesn't necessarily need to wait around and does play a Swords to Plowshares.
No hesitation.
But a daze immediately coming from Alex Hayne, who has a Painful Troops to flip the Delver. We know that there is another Swords to Plowshares in Nicolas Tholance's hand, but if nothing else, Alexander Hayne's going to be gaining a little bit of extra mana on the attacks if the second Swords to Plowshares does resolve.
Yeah, Nicolas Tholance, now he has 2 more Swords to Plowshares, and he looked like he was quite happy about having drawn that land, so I'm not sure if he has a 3rd one just yet. Spell piercing that. Yeah, Alexander Hayne having that disruption. Nicolas Tholance saving his Scalding Target. He could have gone for Tundra there.
I think that because he's got some deck manipulation, he's willing to take a little bit of a hit here just in order to make the most of the shuffle effect that he's going to get from the Scalding Tarn.
Right, he did have a 3rd land there, Tundra hiding in the back, but now he's going to try for the Swords to Plowshares again. This time it resolves. It's exactly the hand you want, especially on the draw, heavy on Swords to Plowshares, and now also will be able to ponder his way into some decent cards. And let's see if Alex actually has some more pressure to follow up, because I think I saw Painful Truths in his hand, but I'm not sure if he has a 3rd land.
Yeah, 3rd time the charm there for that Swords to Plowshares. And now the sculpting of hands begins in earnest. I mean, on both sides of things, really, both of these decks do have a lot of ways of adjusting what they've got going on with 1 mana blue spells to interact with the top of their decks.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Nicolas would snap off the Painful Truth with one of the Flusterstorm that he has in his hand and forego any of the deck manipulation for now.
I think he also has a Snapcaster Mage, so if he needs more Swords to Plowshares, he's going to be able to do so.
Yeah, he's going to go for it here, though. Sex the Scalding Tarn. I assume he's going to fetch a Tundra or a Volcanic Island here.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest spells in Alexander Hayne's deck in terms of getting up on cards. He's got lots of ways of getting card selection, but few ways of actually getting full-on card advantage.
Yes.
So base Garland fetched here, and are we going to see some counter magic? It seems kind of likely.
That's a Flusterstorm. Yeah. Nicolas Tholance will be able to really live up to that Mr. Plow reference from early, because 3 in his graveyard and some more with his Snapcaster Mages. I wonder how many he could cast during a game if he really tried to.
I mean, when you start counting the number of threats in Alexander Hayne's deck, it may work out very favorably. He's got some very powerful threats once they get going, but in terms of raw numbers, there aren't that many, and it may well be that Nicolas Tholance can sort of gradually grind things out here and get a large proportion of what threats at least Alexander Hayne has drawn and dealt with, thanks to all of these Swords to Plowshares.
More lands for Nicolas, though. We've got more Snapcaster Mages and Brainstorms. He's in decent shape here against the Delver, even though he's only on 13 from those early Delver hits.
Yeah, it's an unusual game. I mean, typically with control decks, making your land drop every turn feels great. I mean, in this particular matchup, at some point, he's just going to want a bit more in terms of action.
Yeah. 4th, plow count, 5.
I like it.
And now he's the guy that is pressuring with 4 power of creatures against an empty board. Alexander Hayne had to shuffle away the card from top of his library because it wasn't an instant sorcery. So, I mean, he just couldn't flip his Delver, and even if he did, it would have just died here. And he has basically just 1 card in his hand. All that early pressure and those dazes and spell pierce just were for naught, it seems.
Yeah, that 21 life is not going to last all too long here, because Snapcaster Mage is going to actually get to attack in this time.
Yeah, and it's good. They're going to chip away slowly, and that ponder now, if Nicolas finds something like Sensei's Divining Top, or maybe even like a counterspell could be enough at this point. Yep, there we go.
There's the top, and Alex Hayne really leaning on what he can draw off the top of his deck here. Finds a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, it seems a little too late here for Alexander Hayne.
Yeah, now that the top's going, the Miracles deck is going to have much smoother draws than those of Alexander Hayne here. And that means that, given that he's already ahead on board, Nicolas Tholance is potentially going to be able to lock things up. He's got cards in hand but doesn't need to use them. He can just get stuck in. And this is kind of what the Grixis Delver deck wants to be doing, getting a creature on the board and then sitting back with mana up.
Yeah. Yeah, we got now LSV in the chat, who rightly pointed out a couple of turns before where Nicolas played the Source of Plowshares on the Delver in the upkeep. He should have done it on his turn, just to not even allow Alexander Hayne to scry basically for free thanks to his fetch land. So yeah, thanks for pointing out, and happy to see Luis in the chat as always. If he's not on camera for a weekend, I'm happy to have him in the chat for support.
We'll take that,
of course. Nice. That's a good card.
Yeah, Young Pyromancer not going to be able to be stopped by the Flusterstorm in Nicolas Tholance's hand. The big question, of course, being, will it work out that there's some spells in the future for Alexander Hayne in order to make a few elemental tokens? There's a Wear Tear, a Brainstorm, and a land on top for Nicolas Tholance that he sees with the Sensei's Divining Top, activates that kind of briskly, draws the Volcanic Island, and then proceeds to cast a Brainstorm.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we saw the last copy of Source of Plowshares. drawn for Nicolas. Already having 3 early and 2 Snapcaster Mages as well is just brutal.
Yeah, there's one more Snapcaster Mage, one more Swords to Plowshares in the deck. I wouldn't put it past it to happen at some point. I mean, between Fetch Land Shuffles and Sensei's Divining Top, Brainstorm, etc., there are lots of opportunities to cast many of them. But Alexander Hayne says, get out of there, Swords to Plowshares number 3. I want to at least make sure that Snapcaster Mage doesn't mean that there's going to be more removal from you. You're going to have to draw that last copy the old-fashioned way. Yeah,
Nicolas Tholance just swinging. He wants to take it to the races here. He does have a Ponder on top of his library, double Brainstorm as well as a Flusterstorm in his hand, so he'll be able to still see quite a few cards here.
Another Brainstorm.
He's a digging. Now he's gonna. So he put back 2 cards that he didn't want. Now he's gonna ponder. I assume he will shuffle. Yeah, the 3rd card from the bottom was Flooded Strand. So he's gonna look at a new set of cards. First, of course, he's gonna draw off the ponder, meaning that in total he's going to see 4 new cards. But certainly, it will be hard finding a Swords to Plowshares. But he has plenty of good cards that he can draw into.
It would be a stretch to say that he absolutely needs one right now. It'd certainly just be nice to be able to get rid of the young Pyromancer before it's been able to achieve too much.
Yeah. I think he's playing here. He's going for the Jugular there. So goes for Lightning Bolt here, trying to get an extra creature on the battlefield. And now Nicolas might be regretting the attack with the Snapcaster Mages because he's going to drop down to 8 himself with that Deathrite Shaman mana up as well. So Alexander Hayne is certainly not out of it just yet. He recovered nicely thanks to that young Pyromancer.
Yeah, cards in hand on both sides, though you'd have to assume just sort of without knowing anything about the contents of either player's hand that Nicolas Tholance must have some pretty good card quality just based on all of these effects that he's been able to play here. Sees a counter spell and a couple of other cards there that he's just trying to figure out the best order for with his Sensei's Divining Top. And draws into, I think that's the 3rd Snapcaster Mage. Though Snapcaster Mage with an active Deathrite Shaman, not quite as exciting.
It looks like Nicolas actually is now getting into a bit of a rough shape because as he used all the Swords to Plowshares, now the Deathrite Shaman presents a significant problem, and he just keeps drawing more card drawing. On top of his library, he had some Snapcaster, some counter spells with the Snapcaster in hand as well now. But he just can keep going, and he's just going aggressive. Look at that. Swinging with the Snapcaster Mages again. I think, honestly, like the way he was like using his cards, he seems a little nervous at least.
Well, I mean, the fact that he's got another Snapcaster Mage that he can flash in to block young Pyromancer does kind of add a little bit of weight to this play of being a little bit more aggressive. What we're going to see here is end of turn, Deathrite Shaman activating. And this, if anything, is the time where Nicolas Tholance may want to use his Snapcaster Mage. Goes for the Brainstorm.
There's the Terminus.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, that would explain. I don't think he knew about the Terminus. But now with him tapping out in such a way, he might be risking getting blown out by some sort of counterspell from Alexander Hayne. So it goes down to 6. Exiles a Ponder. Yeah, Snapcaster Mage also gets much worse if there's a Deathrite Shaman on the board. You can always exile what you target for flashback.
And a big Lightning Bolt here.
Yeah.
The token is the easy bit, and it looks like Nicolas Tholance lets that Lightning Bolt do its thing. Just 3 life.
And now he's forced to use that Terminus because Alexander's Hayne card was a Lightning Bolt here. So, yeah, there's the Terminus. And Alex will use Deathrite Shaman in response, put Nicolas down to 1. But we've seen Nicolas recover from a very low life total before.
Yeah, parting shot there from Deathrite Shaman, leaving Tholance on just a single life. So every fetch land now a dead draw. Those tokens going away for good. The rest of the creatures going on the bottom of the deck.
Another Deathrite Shaman and a Lightning Bolt. Nothing just yet. And we also know Nicolas does have the counterspell in his hand. Just like last game, He did have the counterspell mana up, so being on 1 is still fine. And remember, he also has a Snapcaster Mage in his hand that he can use for pressure.
Yeah, only 3 Snapcaster Mage hits needed in order to finish things off. Alexander Hayne wanting to force the issue, though. Casts a Brainstorm here, looking for action.
Yeah, tough choices for Nicolas here. Does he want to counterspell here? No, he does not. He's going to leave it in his hand, and Alexander Hayne gets to see 3 new cards that we don't get to see just yet.
Yeah, Alex choosing to keep it exciting for everybody. We get a little look over the shoulder, though, and we can see a Winter Orb and a Gitaxian Probe. Gitaxian Probe, a dangerous proposition here. Can't quite make out what the card at the back of his hand is there.
I see, there's a Winter Orb, Gitaxian Probe, Wasteland, of Days. Yeah, not very good in this spot.
And Alex, at least in principle, as far as he's concerned, does have a little bit more flexibility about still using fetch lands. We've spoken about how Brainstorm, one of the harder cards to resolve in the format, because you suddenly get access to so much more information and actually have quite a few different choices to make all in one go. It looks like Alex finally figuring out what he wants to do. The Winter Orb here, not super exciting, as Tholance not exactly tapped down too low. Alex Hayne uses the Wasteland to deal with Volcanic Island, keeping red mana out the way, so that at least in principle, if that Winter Orb resolves at some point, there's not going to be just the easy mana up for Werther.
Yeah, exactly. The top card of Nicolas' library is not great. Force of Will that he can't use paying the alternative cost, a fetch land and a Tundra, I think, but he'll be happy with either one.
Well, I mean, the fetch land doing not a thing at all. The Force of Will is a 5 mana cancel.
Yeah.
Winter Orb getting countered by good old-fashioned counterspell there, and just enough mana to spin the top. He already knows what's on top. He just
doesn't need to.
It's just habit at that point. When you've got the mana, you might as well use it. Tense times here for both players. Alex Hayne able to sacrifice a fetch land. We know that at some point a Snapcaster Mage may come down to swing in for 2. So Alex Hayne has kind of shortened his clock there.
Yeah, Snapcaster Mage also allows him to recast the counterspell. So if Alexander Hayne actually taps out for something here, I think Nicolas will go straight for the Snapcaster counterspell.
And it's tough for Alex Hayne to fully tap out here. With 5 mana, he doesn't really have too much in his deck that he's going to want to tap down, even particularly low on. Pays the full retail for Gitaxian Probe because he wants to know what's going on.
And this is tough. In Nicolas' place, I would go for the Snapcaster Mage and play the counterspell here because he knows he has the Force of Will on top, and even a 5 mana cancel is a cancel with Alexander Hayne having no cards and him having 2-turn clock. So I think Nicolas Tholance might be winning this from the brink of death again in 2 games in a row.
And there's the handshake. Nicolas Tholance finds a way through. Just a fantastic finish there. It's always exciting when you've got one player on 1 life for so long. Finds a way of pulling it back, but that's the end of our last semi-final. We're going to be moving across to our finals match very, very shortly. But I'm going to head down to the feature match area to see if I can get an interview with one of our finalists before we do things here. So thank you for everything, the semi-finals, and stay tuned because the final is going to be starting very shortly indeed.